Once upon a time, nestled deep within a picturesque village, there stood a mysterious hill. The villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, for it was said to be inhabited by a powerful and enigmatic witch. Legend had it that this witch, known simply as Alara, had lived atop the hill for centuries, hidden from the prying eyes of the world. The hill itself was a sight to behold. Its lush green slopes rolled gracefully, almost as if they were guarding the secrets concealed within. At its summit, an ancient oak tree, its gnarled branches reaching out like skeletal fingers, stood as a sentinel over the land. Local folklore insisted that this tree held the key to Alara's power. As the village prospered and generations passed, the witch became a distant memory, fading into the background of the villagers' lives. But one fateful day, a terrible drought struck the region. Crops withered, and the land grew parched. Desperation drove the villagers to once again seek the help of the elusive witch. A young woman named Isabella, with raven-black hair and a heart full of courage, decided to venture to the witch's hill. She had heard stories of Alara's power to control the elements and was determined to seek her aid. Armed with a bundle of herbs, a vial of spring water, and an unwavering resolve, she set off on her journey. The path to the hill was treacherous, with thorny bushes and hidden pitfalls, but Isabella pressed on. She finally reached the summit, where the ancient oak tree stood sentinel. There, beneath its gnarled roots, she found a hidden entrance into the hill itself, a dark and twisting labyrinth that led to Alara's abode. Inside the hill, Isabella encountered an otherworldly realm. Strange luminescent flora bathed the tunnels in an eerie light, and whispers of the past echoed in the shadows. She followed a narrow passage deeper into the hill until she reached a chamber aglow with an otherworldly blue light. And there, seated on a throne of entwined vines and roots, was Alara herself. The witch was ancient, her skin like the bark of the trees that surrounded her, and her eyes sparkled with the wisdom of ages. She looked at Isabella with a mix of curiosity and amusement. "Why have you come, young one?" Alara's voice resonated with power. Isabella told her of the drought, the suffering of her people, and their desperate need for help. Alara listened intently, her eyes never leaving Isabella's. After a long silence, Alara spoke. "I will help your people, but you must prove your worth. Venture into the heart of the hill, where the forgotten spirits dwell. Retrieve a vial of their tears, and I will bring rain to your land." With the determined nod, Isabella accepted the challenge and ventured deeper into the hill. She encountered spirits of all kinds, each testing her resolve and courage. She faced her deepest fears and emerged victorious with a vial filled with glistening tears. Returning to Alara, Isabella presented the vial, her heart pounding with anticipation. The witch, true to her word, summoned a great storm that quenched the parched earth. The villagers rejoiced as the rain fell, reviving their crops and bringing life back to the land. In the end, Isabella's bravery and determination not only saved her village, but also forged a bond between the villagers and Alara, the witch in the hill. From that day forward, the witch was no longer a feared legend, but a revered guardian of their land, and her hill became a place of pilgrimage for those seeking wisdom and courage. And so, the tale of the witch in the hill continued to weave its magic through the generations, a reminder that even the most mysterious and powerful beings could be allies in times of need. It was a dark and stormy night when Sarah found the old antique rotary phone in the attic of her recently inherited family home. The rain outside poured like a relentless torrent, and the howling wind sent shivers down her spine as she dusted off the ancient relic. She had never seen a phone like this before, with its tarnished brass casing and an eerie crimson glow beneath the dial. Sarah's curiosity got the better of her as she plugged the phone into the wall, wondering if it still worked. To her surprise, there was a dial tone. She decided to make a call, but instead of a standard ring, the phone emitted a hauntingly melodic tune that sent chills through her body. No one answered on the other end, only silence. As the days went by, Sarah began to receive strange calls on the antique phone, always at the stroke of midnight. The voice on the other end was barely audible, a whisper that seemed to come from the depths of despair. It spoke of unspeakable horrors and impending doom, leaving her trembling with fear. Unable to ignore the disturbing calls, Sarah decided to investigate the history of the phone. She discovered that it had once belonged to a reclusive old man who had lived in the house decades ago. Rumors in the town spoke of his obsession with the occult and his mysterious disappearance. The calls grew more frequent and sinister, and Sarah's nights became filled with dread. She started seeing strange shadows lurking in the corners of her home, and the air grew thick with an oppressive presence. Sleep eluded her as the malevolent force seemed to tighten its grip on her life. One night, as the ominous call came through once again, Sarah decided to confront the ghostly presence. She whispered into the phone, "Who are you? What do you want?" The reply sent shivers down her spine. "I am trapped between worlds, seeking release. You hold the key." Desperate to rid herself of the haunting phone calls and the menacing presence that haunted her home, Sarah delved into the old man's journals she had found in the attic. They contained cryptic instructions for a ritual that could supposedly release the trapped spirit. Following the instructions with trembling hands, Sarah lit candles, drew arcane symbols on the floor, and chanted incantations in a voice that seemed to echo from another realm. As the ritual reached its climax, the antique phone began to tremble, and a spectral figure materialized before her. The ghostly figure revealed itself to be the old man who had once owned the phone. He explained that he had been conducting dark experiments with the phone, attempting to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. In doing so, he had unwittingly trapped his own soul within the phone, unable to find peace. The old man begged Sarah for forgiveness and asked for her help to finally release him from his torment. Sarah, filled with sympathy, agreed to the spirit's plea. They performed another ritual, this time together, and the antique phone shattered into pieces. The old man's spirit dissipated, and the haunting calls ceases. With the ghost's release, Sarah's home returned to a semblance of normalcy, and the stormy nights grew quiet once more. But the memory of the haunting phone and the malevolent presence would forever linger in her mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that she had unlocked something ancient and sinister, something that should have remained buried in the past. As Sarah gazed at the shattered remains of the antique phone, she couldn't help but wonder if the old man's quest for power had led him to a fate far worse than death. And in the darkness of that old house, she couldn't be certain that all traces of the haunting presence were truly gone.